Recording in progress. Hello, everyone, and welcome to School of Speech, presented by SpeechTherapyPD. School of Speech is the podcast for all of us school-based SLPs to come together so we can learn boldly, think critically, and really shine a light on the incredible work we are doing every day in our schools. I'm your host, Carolyn Dolby, and I am so glad you're here, and you will be too. Today's title is From Caseload to Workload, Rethinking Service Delivery in the Schools. So let's start with something every school-based SLP talks about and understands: caseload numbers, right? We are always talking about numbers. Even though we're wordsmiths, we have all this number, right? We track them, we compare them, we advocate around them. But here's a question. Do caseload numbers actually reflect the full scope of what we do? Because there is so much more than just pulling a child, right, for therapy. And that is what we just want to do all day long. Like, we want to work with the kids. That's what we want to do. But there's so much more, right? Evaluations, collaborations, communications, and of course, documentations. I mean, when we really start thinking about all this extra, oh my gosh, you know what? It's no surprise we're all overwhelmed, right? I'd like to be underwhelmed one day, but not today. Not today. We are all overwhelmed. All right. So today we're going to shift our conversation, right, from what your caseload is to what does your workload actually look like. And I am so excited to have two incredible guests on the podcast today. First, Janine Benner. She is a speech language pathologist, of course, but she has over 30 years of experience, including 27 of those years in pediatric practice. She is a board certified specialist in child language and a certified autism spectrum disorder clinical specialist with deep expertise in autism and early intervention. She has served as an assistant professor at Loma Linda University, where she taught, supervised graduate clinicians, and developed service learning programs. Since retiring from school-based practice, she does continue to provide professional development, parent coaching, and international training. Janine, thank you so much, and welcome to School of Speech. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much, Carolyn, for that introduction. I am excited to be here. I'm excited to see that we have some people here in our live course, and I'm excited to share these wonderful ideas with everyone tonight.
I can't wait. And joining her is Abbie Keibler, and Abbie is in her 19th year as a school-based SLP at Mississippi Bend AEA in Iowa. She serves preschool and elementary students and is the department lead for 57 SLPs. That's a nice group of clinicians.
A great group.
She also serves as the co-state speech lead, and if that's not enough, she's also an adjunct professor at St. Ambrose University. Her work focuses on AAC, comprehensive literacy for complex communicators, and workload practices. Isn't that perfect, right? She also presents nationally on all these topics. Hi, Abbie, how are you?
I'm good. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I feel like I'm the lucky one. All right. I know I want to jump in because I always do, but I have to do a little bit of housekeeping. I want to make sure, I know we've got a live audience. I love live audience. Thank you, everyone that's here live with us. I want to make sure that, learning counts, and each episode of School of Speech is offered for ASHA CEUs 0.1. So if you're listening live, we really want to make sure you get credit. So please jump on your speech therapy account and fill out all those modules. Also, if you are seeing us, you're seeing us. If you're here with us live, we want you to jump in the chat because we want to know where you're at. And I love to see, I've already seen some names I have seen before. So hello, but tell us, just jump in, say hi, and tell us where you're tuning in from. And I'm just going to go over a quick disclosure. It's going to take just a second. I'm a salaried employee of Portland Public Schools in Oregon, and I do receive compensation from SpeechTherapyPD for hosting School of Speech. Janine and Abbie have no relevant financial disclosures to disclose. Oh, I love it. We are getting people in the chat. Hi, everyone.
Woohoo! Orange County, San Diego, California.
Oh, we are Cali heavy today.
Palm Springs. Hey, that's where I am.
Nice. Oh, I've got a Washington. Hey, Washington
Woohoo!
State, you're my neighbor. I love it. All right, jump in. We got lots of people listening today, so this is exciting. All right. Well, you keep jumping in because I'm going to be watching, see where you're from. Gosh, lots of Cali. Well, okay, I'm sorry, I'm distracted. Okay, focus, Carolyn, focus. All right, let's start with the terms caseload and workload because I think a lot of us might use it interchangeably, and maybe we should talk about that they're not the same thing. So do you want to start us off kind of big picture on how do you guys clearly define the difference and why does that difference matter?
Mm.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can jump in.
Okay, Abbie.
We are in interview season right now. So we are interviewing new SLPs, bringing them on board. And one of their most asked questions at the end is, tell me about, what is your caseload? And I'm so proud to be able to say to them, I really don't know. I can tell you about how we measure our workload. So that's different. I can no longer give you a number, which is awesome. So to jump back to answer your question, caseload to me is a number. It is the number on your roster. That's your caseload. Your workload is what you are doing with that number. If you think of caseload as like the tip of the iceberg, and for those of you listening later, I'm making a little triangle. Workload is everything from the tip of that iceberg, the kids, all the way underneath that encompasses the things you said at the beginning: evaluation, collaboration, conversations with LRE, everything else that you do, researching what is best practice for these learners that are on your caseload. So workload's that real big picture. That's the actually what you're doing. Caseload is the children you get to do it with.
That's a great
Yeah,
definition.
and
I love that,
your-
Abbie.
And I like your visual with the triangle, kind of like an iceberg.
Yeah.
Right?
You
Like
just see the tip of it.
you see the tip of the iceberg, which is your number, but nobody sees all that huge underneath the water.
Yes.
Everything that we're doing.
We feel it. We certainly feel it, but you don't see it as easily as that number on a piece of paper that so many administrators want to look at. And, as we've all said, as we've all felt, 50 very basic articulation students is not 50 preschoolers. It is not 50 complex communicators. It's non-equivalent. So you need to encompass that whole workload picture in order to make them feel equivalent.
Why do you think caseload has remained like states have like caseload caps? Like why is it just why is caseload? It's like, Marsha. Why are we stuck on that model? Why are we worried about caseload?
I would surmise it's easy. It's easy. It's a quick, you can pull it from reports. It's easy to look at. And if you aren't in the mix, if you aren't doing the work, it feels like something that you can use to compare. That would be that's what I would surmise. Janine, you're usually way deeper in the research.
And I think districts also, and I looked at some of the research, and ASHA has these great school surveys, and in 22 and 24, I have some notes here, 78% of districts are still using a caseload model.
Yep.
Very few are using either a hybrid approach or weighted caseloads. So we say, why? I think a lot of districts, it's just what we've always done. That's what they say. We've always done that. So this is what we're used to. But caseload today, we talked about this in the course, caseload today in 2026, those numbers look very different and have changed dramatically from when I started back in 1998. Very, very different. And so more complex students, all of those things that go along with it, legal stuff and fair hearings and advocates and long meetings and part 27 of IEP meetings. So districts are just like, well, this is what we've done. We don't know there's something different. And then having people like Abbie, who's done such a wonderful job with all of the clinicians in her district, to say, let's look at this differently. And let's actually measure what we are doing. About half of our time we're spending, half of your time, because I'm retired, yay, you're spending doing workload related activities. About half of your time you're spending in seeing the students that you work with. That's huge. That's very different than it was back in the 90s. So Abbie's been able to advocate for it, but districts tend to push back. They think it means more staff, more money, harder to pull reports. People aren't going to be as happy. They don't maybe know all of the information. And that's why when I reached out to Abbie and I met her, I was like, oh my gosh, she has to share what she's done in her district to help. So what helped you, Abbie, when you went to your district to say, can we look at this differently?
Yeah. And it is, as we talked a little bit about in the course, it's been a process. I like to say kind of this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. We'll give you some sprint activities later. Janine will give you some change this tomorrow. The process of measuring workload is ongoing. We have been doing it for just about 10 years at this point, and it has looked a little different each time, but there's some key components that you need to do. And it starts with measuring time. So a time study. ASHA has some of those available. You can kind of create your own. What takes more time? And starting to quantify that in your way. So that was what we did first. At very grassroots, group of SLPs around someone's kitchen table, literally, deciding how can we make change? How can we demonstrate to our administration that our problem, when we identified our problem, it was equitable caseloads. That's really what we were looking at. We were needing equitable caseloads just to each other. But step one in any time you're working with workload is defining your problem. It might be the same as mine, as inequity amongst caseload, or it might be kids' minutes aren't being met. Like, we are out of compliance. That's a huge problem. So first you have to identify that problem. And then you need to talk about who is in your advocacy coalition. Who do you need to make sure you bring on board? Your administration, your union, a group of SLPs. Who needs to be in your corner in order to make this work? So you're kind of asking who holds influence. So we did a lot of work around that kitchen table, started to meet, started to get administration involved in order to support solving this problem. And then you kind of pick that tool. How are you going to measure it? That's going to look different for every person. We now use a weighted caseload. That's our measurement tool. We've been through a number of iterations, and I can talk more about that in a little bit if you want. But then you execute. So you start to put this plan in place step by step. What's your measurement? Make sure you are putting those feelings, so that feeling of workload, you're starting to put it to data, because data is what's going to speak to the people in charge.
Right. Yep.
And then you execute.
And that's exactly what I was thinking about when I was listening to you and we started talking about our course, is that administration kind of lives and breathes by numbers, because that's how they think. They don't think like we do because we're in it, we're doing it, or you are all doing it. And so bringing the information, how many sessions have you missed because you were pulled into a meeting or pulled over into a 6-hour-long IEP and you missed all your sessions? So keeping track of all of that data, the numbers, IEP compliance, also keeping track of your contract hours, making sure that you're kind of sticking to those. If I read somewhere that some districts ask their staff to stay after hours or before school, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So bringing data.
I've had when I was in Texas, it was an expectation that and I'm now in Oregon, and luckily they're though I wish we were workload, we are still caseload, but we are a union in Oregon, we aren't in Texas, and so that was part of the issue there. I want more about workload because
So bringing the information, the data to your administration and having those conversations. And what we did in our course is we had a handout that kind of has advocacy points. It has all the information because it's all kind of spread out everywhere. To have it in one place, okay, here are the outcomes. Here are the outcomes for students when our caseloads are too high, how it impacts documentation and compliance and our well-being. All of that is there. So to have those conversations with your data, because that's what they want. And also kind of having this mindset of, can we look at this differently? Can we approach this differently? Can we maybe do a pilot at a school or two? Because then instead of it being a systematic change, because everyone is afraid of that, kind of starting small. So having those conversations, I think, is good. And then coming with some potential solutions like a pilot, or let's rethink some of what we can do now So those are some of the things that we talked about. And again, Abbie has lived this and has birthed this and is seeing such great impacts, not only with students, but also with staff.
And to piggyback on that, the retention of SLPs is something that's going to speak to your administration. And when you work in a system that is a workload model, so that you have this equitable workload, you feel supported, your caseload does look different from SLPs, you retain SLPs. And that's going to speak to your administration. It is extremely expensive to hire and onboard every other year because of burnout.
Right.
That is something that we are also very proud of, is that we lose SLPs to retirement. One's going to go back and get her PhD, good on her, or they physically leave the state. Like, we do have that retention that we're really proud of, being in a system that works. Another benefit, and this, may speak to a little bit, having such a breadth of SLPs serving 21 districts in my area, but we're able to make real-time shifting. So because we do this weighted caseload, we do it every month. It's a pretty quick process now. It's just part of it. SLPs just do it. We are able to say, oh my goodness, your numbers, your workload number, again, I don't even know what your caseload is. Your workload number is way too high in comparison to these 57. What can we do about that? What can we actively problem solve with you? What support can we give? Is there an SLP near you who is operating at a much lower workload that can step in and support you? And we can make those real-time decisions, which is extremely helpful. It also gives SLPs the autonomy. We always ask, you're operating really high in your workload. How do you feel? You know what? I'm actually doing okay. Thanks for asking. Cool. By all means, keep on keeping on. But it allows us to make shifts that are best for learners, best for SLP. And you're able to then be a little more creative in your service delivery options when you actually have the time to do so. And again, all leaning on what's best for learners.
A couple of things that kind of popped in my head is, one thing that always gets me when SLPs are saying that, like, teachers are like, why do you, I want to see your schedule, or the admin, I want to see your schedule, and they want to see the kids on the schedule. And you're like, why do you have this? It looks like you have all these blanks in your schedule. There should never be a blank in your schedule. You should be putting in what you're doing in that time, right? But if you were doing a workload, I think you would make sure that your schedule's reflecting that when you're doing your report writing. I mean,
probably. And I would say with our measurement tool, it captures that. So we're not getting micromanaged down to our schedule. I guess that's something that we don't get a lot of that. And a lot of that has to do with having that support of our administrators for so long. And they're so used to this. And at any point, I could turn around as the lead and show them all of the data. Our regional leads get it every month, so they already have that. So I think because we have that culture of workload, I don't even think about putting that in my schedule. I could, but there's a lot of trust there because I'm operating at a workload that has been deemed appropriate. Nobody's micromanaging my schedule. So,
and for those of you that are still following a caseload model in your districts, sometimes you don't have that time to plan, prep, do your pre-meetings, write your reports, assess students, and you're trying to fit it in between all the other thousands of things that you're doing. A lot of clinicians are still doing the same type of service delivery once or twice a week, 30 minutes in a group, and you just feel like you have to steal time during the day. Or I know some of you, because I was kind of like that at the beginning, you stay over. You stay past your contract time. And then they think, oh my gosh, you're amazing, Janine, because you're serving 90 kids. Seriously, that was my caseload my first year. How do you do it? And I'm like, I'm taking work home. And my great colleague, mentor, and best friend said, stop it.
That invisible,
go home.
Stop doing the invisible work. Stop doing the invisible work. It's not serving you, and it's not serving your colleagues.
Amen. And I want to make sure everyone hears that. Stop doing the invisible work. I know that we want to, because we're such a giving population. I mean, that's just our personalities as SLPs. We are givers, givers, givers. But we really do. We're not helping anybody else if we are willing to just take on more, take on more, take on more. But Janine, you were touching on service delivery models. Can we talk a little bit about that and how that
Yes. I
really
do want to talk about that, but I
Yeah.
love the fact that you were saying about that we're helpers and we want to
Yes.
do everything. And we talked about this in our course, and there really is a culture within SLPs as a whole. We're driven, we want to help. I remember telling my grad students, we actually had a course at Loma Linda. I didn't develop, my colleague, Dr. St. Clair did. I kind of took it over when I came in, called Issues in Public School Speech Language Pathology. I'm like, there's a lot of issues to talk
Where
about.
do we start?
Where do we start? Pick one out of 1,000. But we talked about how school-based services are different than clinical and medical model, but we're trained in that. We're trained to see it, hear it, fix it. So when we go into schools, and let us know in the chat if you feel this way, that, okay, well, I still have that mindset. Well, the student has some little things going on, maybe I can help. We're afraid to say no. And when we're first learning and we're first coming into the schools, you just want to say yes to everyone because you're still in that mindset of see it, fix it, hear it, do everything, say yes to everybody. And it's hard to say no. We have a hard time with boundaries as well, but that also leads to when we feel we can't, when our caseload numbers are high and we're using a caseload model, there's something within us. I think you all may have felt it. I know I have. Abbie and I have talked about it, where you feel like you're letting someone down. You're letting the kids down and you're not doing your job. And that's a real ethical issue. That's not necessarily an ethical issue, but it's a personal, like,
It's it's a personal moral issue.
yes. And that's what leads to that stress and burnout and anxiety and worry and thinking at 2 a.m, oh my gosh, did I get those, materials ready for that student? So there is something about the culture that does kind of drive us as school-based SLPs. And when you are able to use, like Abbie's at her schools, using a weighted caseload or caseload model or a workload model, fabulous. But in the meantime, most of you are still following a caseload model. So what can you do now? I'd be curious to know, Carolyn, in your district, what are some things in your district that your clinicians and your colleagues are doing to kind of help mitigate the craziness of caseload? And then we'll talk about.
Right. So I do know, well, here's the thing that is confusing is I've been talking to because I've only just recently moved and I'm in this new district, is they used to use a weighted caseload, a weighted caseload, right? And they went back to just caseload model. And I don't think anyone's happy with that.
Why?
Because
Why'd they do that?
Admin did.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
So it was an admin decision, and I think, right? And so I know what we used to do in Texas more because I was there for 25 years, and we would just do an all call. Hey, I need help. Is anybody able to help me out? And that's what we did.
And then you're kind of in survival mode. I mean, we've all been there.
I think constantly in survival mode.
And
I think most of us are, and that's sad because it feels icky to not feel accomplished. And we are amazing clinicians, and when we don't feel like our outcomes aren't what we know that we can produce, it doesn't feel good.
And we talked about that in course. It's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome.
Yeah.
And every clinician, no matter what state they're in, other than in Abbie's state where she is, and she has this whole wonderful system.
Oh no, there's still stuff going on. Don't totally absolve us.
If I ever go back to schools, I'm moving to Iowa. But now my brain just stopped. I think there's
you were starting to talk about the different kinds of models.
Yeah. So having options. Sometimes you don't feel like there's options. Sometimes you're just feeling you're like drowning in the water and there's no boat and there's sharks around you and you have no idea what you can do. There are some things that you can do right now. And you're saying, Janine, it's April. Yes, it is. Abbie, it's April. Yes, but you can start reframing things, rethinking things. How can I approach this differently now, moving forward to help manage the chaos and the crazy? So one of the first things we talked about is we talked a little bit a few minutes ago at using a school-based model approach versus a clinical, right? Get out of that mindset of individual or twice a week, every single week in the month. There is no research that really says that, IDEA doesn't even have requirements on or suggestions. It's based on what the student needs. What the student needs. But we keep doing the same thing. We keep putting those students on the same service delivery model. I had a student I discharged. I exited like 25 kids before I retired because they were ready. They had the same service delivery model for years. Once a week, twice a week. I'm thinking,
Always
why do
direct, always, still
Yeah.
seeing them in your
The
room.
one nice thing about my district here now in Portland, we do a 3-1 model, and that is helpful.
Yes.
That's a
That's right
wonderful
where she was
model.
going.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
when you
love it.
say that, I literally
Yeah.
took a breath and went, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So looking at different service delivery models is key, and we'll talk about that. But also following eligibility. We have this, again, I want to help everybody. Oh, they have this one little, let's really stick with that. So let's talk about flexible, and I'm curious in the chat, give us a yes or a no if you do use any flexible service delivery models currently. And then, Carolyn, you guys use a 3-in-1?
We do 3-1 model, and we also do minutes by quarter.
Oh, you
Love
do by
that.
quarter.
Love that.
Yeah, so I mean, we got some good stuff going. PPS, Portland Public Schools, shout out. We are doing some good stuff, but I still think we need to go back to the way to caseload. And I'm going to come back after this podcast to them and go, hey, maybe not like that, but in my sweet, delightful way, because I am a delight.
Yes.
But I think PPS is doing great things, but I think we can do it better. So I'm going to stop talking. Go.
Okay, so flexible scheduling really is just structuring what the services look like based on student need, not based on how they fit into your very full schedule.
Okay.
So if a student needs maybe more intense, like a fluency student that's brand new and needs more services, you can write a receding schedule. If you have students that maybe you started off when they were in kindergarten, severe phonological, just a big mess, and they're really progressing, you can change them to a 2-in-1 model. You could see them maybe once in the speech room, once in the classroom, once in another way. Not every student. So I want you to think, those of you that are listening live or recorded, think about the service type that you're doing with your students.
And Janine, I just today had an IEP with a family where we got to celebrate dropping down even more. And
Yes.
1 year ago, just 1 year ago, pretty significant phonological. And we worked that receding. We're going to hit it. We're going to go 3 times a week because he needs this a lot right now. By the end of the year, we'd even drop to 2. By the end, we dropped to 1. So you can do it. And paperwork wise, that did require amendments on my part. Iowa's paperwork, but quick. And because I set it up on the front end with the parents, it was expected. It was not a
Yes.
surprise. This is the milestone I need him to meet in order to drop. And then it
Yes.
met and dropped. And they're in full support of this plan.
And that's one of the things, I'm so glad you brought that up. Like, a lot of people are like, well, the parents might be upset. If you have those conversations from the get-go, so think, those of you working in schools right now, thinking about summer's coming up, I know, but think about having those conversations at initial evaluations. This is what your student needs right now. Gen Ed kids, even our kids with complex communication issues, medically fragile, autistic, there still should be some sort of change in their service delivery in the minutes and where it's happening based on student need. And that's really
reminding them
important.
the critical importance of them being in their classroom. And right off the bat, this work is important too. It's extremely critical. Doesn't matter what I'm pulling him from, it's still pulling him. So let's celebrate every time we can get him back in that classroom more and more.
Which is very different than the clinic model where they are coming after school. They're not missing school. And they're coming, and for insurance, they're billing as much as they can. And we have parents, I've had parents say, well, what can we get? How much can we get? And just really talking about it. But I want to say, Vicki, thanks for jumping in the chat. In her previous district, she piloted the 3-1 and she loved it. So I love the 3-1 too. So thanks
And
for sharing that.
And what I love about the 3-in-1 is not all my students were on a 3-in-1, but a majority of the students came back in 2020. 3 back to schools, and I thought, I'm going to try this. I had taught about it in my class. I'm like, I'm going to do it. And people are like, you're crazy. I'm like, I know, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it literally just gave me this sense of I have time built in. So you do your 3 direct sessions or 2 direct sessions, whether it's in the class or coming to the speech room. And then you have an indirect week. So I would have the last week of every month where I called it my sacred time. I didn't say it was a week off.
No, because no one's
Yes.
going to be okay with that. No one.
Yes. Can you explain the 3-in-1 model in depth? Blah. We have, I don't know how much time we have. But
Do it
I
in
have,
the elevator speech for 3-in-1.
yes.
1 minute, go.
You have 3 direct sessions, whether that's in your class, in the classroom or in your speech room, and then 1 indirect consult every single month. So I would have my first 3 weeks of the month, I did my direct services, whether that was 3-in-1, speedy speech, inclusion, all of that. And then my last week, again, my sacred protected week, where I had meetings, I had scheduled consults with teachers on certain days at certain times. And so I showed up, and at first they're like, you're really here? I said, yeah. They're like, we've never had this happen before. Something always comes up and you get pulled away or something gets canceled. I have time for meetings. I have time for collaborating with my teammates. I have time to go to the speech meeting and listen to all of the information my leads send on to me. And I have that week, and I'm not rushing, and I'm not panicking that I don't have time at the end of every day.
And you have time for lesson planning so that your 3 weeks are really good, really intentional therapy, because the research shows you have to have, it doesn't matter, that 30 minutes isn't 30 minutes isn't 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes of intentional, direct, good service. So if you're doing sessions that are 30 minutes just to fill 30 minutes, and 30 minutes would be a pretty long session here in Iowa, you need to make sure that's full of good stuff. That 1 week is an opportunity to be planful and intentional about the targets that you're hitting in those direct sessions.
Right, because we want engaged 30 minutes.
Exactly.
Yes.
We don't want just 30 minutes and just
Nope.
we want the engagement is what makes progress.
You got it.
And it does reduce missed services because you have scheduled. And then that 4th week was also the week for IEP meetings. So I would not schedule them during the rest of the time, and we were all kind of on one Google Calendar, so we all knew, like, that's protected time. Our IEPs are only on the last day of the month. If for some reason it needed to be on one of our minimum days, that was fine. So everything, and so I just felt like I could be present, right, with my students, and I'm not thinking about, oh my gosh, we have a meeting in an hour, I got to hurry up and talk, and I got to go. So I really had that time. Now, some of you asked for something more specific, more in detail. In our course, Abbie and I provided handouts, and maybe we can put our emails.
Yeah, or let's do a little shout out to the course. So they did a webinar just like last weekend?
Last month?
Last month?
Yeah.
I knew I was trying to get you on before it, but yeah, so
It didn't work out.
It didn't work out, but we tried. So they have a whole course on workload on Speech Therapy PD's account. So go there and check them out, and it's recorded, so it's on demand now. So
And then
do
you'll
that
have
for sure.
more of that workload tool, how to develop it, and more of these 3-in-1 speedy speech in the other areas Janine's about to cover.
And someone was asking about speedy speech. If you would, what's your definition of that?
Okay,
Yeah. Oh, look at you get all excited.
I'm super excited because, okay, when we think about our littlest ones that we work with, either preschool, kinder, first grade, that have severe phonological, I don't know about you, but I had like 10 of them all at the same time my last year. And I'm like, woohoo! And I thought, they're little, their attention spans are also short.
Reading.
And there is actually research on the speedy speech, burst speech that shows that children actually make more progress. And the reason why is it's really focused, intense intervention. And so what I would do is I'd have a little rolling cart in a chair, and I would park myself outside the kindergarten classroom in the hallway, and I would have kids come in 5 to 8 minutes, boom, like 50, 60 targets, right? And then I tap them, go get the next student, go get so-and-so, and they come. And I see all of my kids, maybe all of those speedy speech kids, the first hour, a couple of times a week. And then again, depending on how you write it in the IEP, and I have examples in the documents that we shared in our course, but it was much more focused because our little ones are all over the place. By the time you get them to the room and they're touching each other and have to wait for you to do this student and go to this student, you lose a lot of valuable time. So within that 5, 8, 10 minutes, however you decide to put it together, you can get so much done and the kids make more progress. And a lot of my students, I started talking to parents about changing their minutes and changing the service delivery based on progress and data.
Right. And
it's not the same thing.
It's beautiful for scheduling because you know how awful it is at the beginning of the year. You're sending your emails to your teacher, you're walking down, you're trying to make all these 15, 20-minute sessions fit. When you do speedy speech or any, burst speech, any program that is packaged, I just had a block at the beginning of the day and I called it drive-by. And I just said, I'll be popping in, pull them in, pull them out. Because when they're missing 8 minutes of instruction, they're not like, oh, it can't be this 20-minute block. It can't be this. Everybody wants this exact same time. So drive-by speech meant I'll show up sometime within the first hour. Boom, 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 boom. And I used the iPad a lot just because then I wasn't pulling a bunch of cards. Or if I had cards, we'd toss them across the hallway. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, I love it.
Got a ton of productions and they thought it was great.
5-minute RTIC. There was a
Yes.
program called
Yep,
5-minute
that's
RTIC.
exactly
And I loved it. But we're
Yes.
not, so burst speech, speedy speech, 5-minute RTIC. So it's really good for RTIC and phonological awareness. For those kids that it's drill and kill.
But
And it can be done for some language targets too if it's drilling.
Yes.
Ooh, tell
If
me
you're
more.
doing grammar, hit it.
Oh God, yeah, sure. Okay.
But also think about the students that you have, and I know Abbie is the expert here in this, are those complex communicators, the students are using AAC, that I had a medically fragile program at my school, and there was about 8 to 9 students depending on the day. Sometimes there would be less. I would go in the first 5 to 10 minutes every morning that I was there. I was at that campus 4 days a week because they're doing morning greetings, they're doing morning circle, they had all of the buttons out, all of the devices out, all of the eye gaze things out. And I was able to go in and target certain skills with the paras
I love this.
and the teachers, and they saw me do it and then they would try it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And so instead of doing 30 minutes, because some of our little ones really have a hard time doing 30 minutes. That's the other thing. Why do we keep doing the same thing? Everyone is like 30 minutes twice a week, 30 minutes, 6 sessions a month. Trying something new. If caseload is just, everyone is still doing it, we need to think about trying something new and taking that time. So can you switch everybody over right now to 3-in-1 or speedy speech? No. Having the conversation with the family. At the beginning, at every annual that you have, talking about data and progress, and then maybe start with a group. Start with your little ones. Start with every new eval coming in or every new annual and say, hey, I'm going to switch this over. So it may take some time, and depending on your district, amendments, and how that all works, it can take a little bit of time to do that, but it's worth it. It's worth it. You just have this protected time. I started putting a sign on my door. Do not disturb. Because I'm a communicator. I will talk to anybody. You come in the office and you want to tell me about something, hey. No. So I started putting a sign on the door. That's protected time for myself. And also I would tell people like I'm in a classroom, right? So people knew that I'm not just hanging out somewhere not doing anything. So it is possible. It doesn't happen all at one time. But there's a lot of evidence and research that shows that this is beneficial for you as clinicians. It gives you that, I can breathe, I can get all the things that the workload require to support my students. Did I cover everything? I don't know. There's so
Well,
Yeah,
I
you
wanted
got-
to go
you got the
back,
helpful
Abbie,
ones.
to let's talk about weighted caseload because you touched on that, but we didn't really talk about it. Could you define that?
Sure. And I can define it kind of in our context and how we're using it because we've done a little bit of both. We've done trying to capture the workload in time, and now we're on more of a weighted caseload. So for us, and this is based off of ASHA recommendation, we offer anybody on our caseload is rated, they get a 1. Okay. If they are a preschool student, they get a 1.6. So they automatically come in higher. This amounts to the amount of work in that early childhood atmosphere, all of that, you're coaching and collaborating, all of that. So they're a 1.6. If you have a student using assistive technology, they are also a 1.6 because that takes more time. Again, it's all about time. The final we have in ours, and again, based off ASHA recommendation, is EL students. And they are also a 1.6. That often requires a lot of collaboration, a lot of, different therapy techniques. So that's our weighted caseload. So every month, it's actually pulled from our IEP system. That's going to be different everywhere. So we're lucky in that it's pretty smooth for us. So based on what's checked in their IEP, that's pulled in those numbers. And then in addition to that, we supplement with a Google form. Everybody gets it once a month. And in there, you talk about how many open new evaluations do you have? How many reevaluations do you have? That is given an amount of time as well, because that is not captured from our standard report that's pulled. So there is a reeval gets an extra half a point, a new eval gets a 1.5 points. Again, everything's tied back to time. And then we also offer that space for the narrative of, oh my gosh, I have this really unique situation going on. So that when we're looking, we do want to make sure there's that full picture there too. The final thing we ask in that Google form is a feeling question. How do you feel? Great, good, fine, not good, really bad. And then we ask right in there, is your workload appropriate? And if you answer no, here are some like canned things that we can offer to you right away. Do you want someone to go over your workload with you? Do you need help? Do you want me as lead to come in and do your caseload, do your actual work for a couple of days while you take a breath and get caught up? Fortunately, we have that option, but it asks right there, what are you looking for problem solving? And I will say over the course of 10 years, most people are saying fine, good, great, fine, good, great, fine, good, great. Of course, that's not everyone, and I would be shocked if it was, but the vast majority, whereas years ago, it would be like, every answer was, I am on fire. I can't sustain this career.
Yeah.
So that's weighted. We have also done that where we are more capturing the time. So we would actually input, I had this meeting, I had this unique circumstance. So we were tying everything to time, and that became very complex and just not very standard. What we were looking for with the weighted caseload is a more standard way to compare workload to workload.
I have a question for you, Abbie. So when you're doing the weighted caseload, do you kind of have a target number? Like if you go over 65, like that's the limit for your overall weighted caseload, then we need to send extra help to you.
So yes and no, both. We have a range, and every time we have changed our workload measurement tool, which is about 3 times in the past 10 years, it takes almost a year to get that sweet spot, right? Because we changed the metric. So I can't compare that to the old one. So we have a healthy range of where it is. And like I said earlier, once you're outside of that range, to us, the number wouldn't mean anything to you guys. We then start asking, we give them that. If they're saying not good, we're going to ask no matter what your number is, because something doesn't feel right. But if you're saying not good and your number's up here, and that is a very obvious. Once you hit a certain threshold, we're going to check in with you anyway, even if you keep telling us you're good, because we want to know why. So one example of that is we have an SLP that serves an entirely early childhood setting. So her weighted caseload is naturally going to be a little bit higher anyway, because every kid's a 1.5 points. We want to keep it lower and equitable, but it just by the nature of the caseload that she has is going to measure higher. So we check in. She says, nope, I'm good. I've got a great system. And that also helps with that transparency. And I think that's important to highlight. When you are starting to work on measurement tools, whether it's weighted or whether it's any way of measuring workload, always keep that curtain wide open to your SLP peers, to your SLP colleagues, because anything that looks like it's happening behind the scenes, you're not going to have the trust established. So while you are trying to advocate for administrators for this important tool, also keep your SLPs looped in through the process, seek input, talk about what's going on. And I can tell you, because we had our own stumbling blocks with that, what's happening back there thing, so that you build that trust and transparency in the whole process.
So there was a question that maybe is California specific for the weighted caseload. Is there a distinction between if you're the case manager versus
Yes.
if the teacher's a case manager and you're a related service?
So actually, in our case at the moment, no. But in our previous workload, we did have that, because that is a great question. That is time. When you are the case manager, you have to schedule the meeting. You have to write everybody and see when they can all come. So yes, in our previous one, how we captured that is if in that month you were the case manager that organized the IEP, you checked a box, and that gave you more weighting. So it wasn't one that got you a point, every month. It got you the point the month you did it. And then we started to kind of look at that, that average across time.
And you think about also your high profile cases and the cases that you're having part 5, 7, 24 ongoing. I had several that were speech only and ended up with lawyers, and the time it took for me to schedule 15 other professionals and the pre-meeting and the after the meeting and the notes and the everything. And so in a weighted caseload, your district, your team can decide as a team. This is what's really important. What I love about what Abbie's done is everyone came together and there's input from the people that are actually doing the service. Instead of someone coming in and saying, this is what you need to do. Okay, so what are some of the trends that we're seeing? We have a lot of AAC users. We have a lot of kids coming in with higher support needs. And they all tend to be at this one school. One of my schools had 6 special ed programs. 4 of which were for extensive needs students. So at that school, the workload is very, very high. And so
in our course, it came up a lot. People said so many more behaviors, and we're all experiencing that. So if that's something that within your realm of SLPs, they're saying, man, behavior takes up so much time, that might be something you want to capture. So it really all comes back to time. And I think that's why those time studies are so important. And ASHA does have a way you can document time, and it feels tedious at the beginning. What is taking up my time? But in doing that time study, over the course of a week, a few weeks, whatever you're willing to do, whatever your people are willing to do, you'll see trends. The behavior takes up a lot. AAC takes up a ton. Collaborating takes up a ton of time. That is all very important to document and see what are your trends. Like Janine said, what is sticking out to you?
And yes, and the data is so important. The time is important, but also like we talked about, missed sessions, having to reschedule, being pulled into a meeting, compliance. That is like rings very loudly in the ears of your administrators.
Billing.
Because they're on you about billing. And again,
it's money for them.
It's
for
money
us,
for
us. I don't like them and us. I shouldn't have said it like that. I apologize.
No, but it makes sense. It's another thing to do. And so having all of that information, you're thinking, how am I going to do this? Go to your team and say, let's talk about this. We have some great resources for you in our course. We can put our emails, if that's okay, Carolyn, and people can reach out to us.
100%, because we just had another listener want some more information about the course. If you had any more information that you can share, we would love it.
Yeah, and I think the other important thing in all of this, whether we're talking about flexible service delivery or workload measurement, is go slow to go fast. Okay, you're not going to develop a workload tool tomorrow, but what you can do tomorrow is start identifying your problem. Okay, you can start identifying your people. Who needs to have a seat at this table in order to have this conversation? What are your next steps? That can be your action plan, and I would think of it like an action plan. First, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. And the entire way, keep your administration in the loop so they know, so that data speaks to them too. Numbers are only as important as how much you understand them.
Right.
So if we did this in a closet, they'd be like, that's nice. So keeping them informed. And what can this do for you? I mentioned at the beginning, recruitment and retention is huge. And being able to sit at that table, for these interviews, my HR director keeps looking at me every time somebody asks with caseload, and he's like, here she goes again. But it's really awesome to be able to say, I can't tell you that, and here's why. It's a huge recruitment tool for them. And we have never had a negative response to that answer. Nobody has come back and said, well, no, how many kids is it? I literally don't know.
And I liked when you said that the problem that you guys had
Mhm.
was equitable caseload. People hear that, understand that. That means something. But when you say who's coming to the table, like who is your you called it a collaboration coalition, advocacy coalition. I loved it. I love your wording. But like, so who could you give us some ideas of who you want for
Sure.
us to think about? We might not have everybody in our district, but who would be some thought, who, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I
Yes.
do. And for us, that was a group of SLPs who had a conversation and wanted to do something about it. That was where we started. And then it was bringing in, like I said, administration pretty early. And we work in Iowa for an agency, slightly different, but it was, hey, we did this thing on our own time. We want to start studying this. Do you support that? I mean, it was just a simple ask. We then formed a workload measurement committee, so we
Ooh.
were like a little more official. We met during contract time then, which again, let's push it back into the work because it is the work. And so then we would do that and just kind of report back. This is what we're finding. 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot out there, but we found enough. We found a little bit, so we could start modeling it. There's a lot more out there now. So you want your SLPs, your people, if you have a union and are involved in your union, that's never a bad thing to involve. From this also came a speech leadership team. I mean, we didn't have speech heads. We didn't have any of that. My position came out of the speech leadership team. So after this meeting of the minds became a speech leadership team, that brought us way more benefits than workload. Workload is great. And it allowed us many, many things. It brought us 2 leads, myself and another amazing SLP. And all of this was in service of how do we make equitable caseload? So it just built upon itself. And the byproduct has been this great workload tool. They're trying to match that for my colleagues who are school psychs, ed consultants, social workers. I'm trying. It's a little different for them, but it just brings such positive results. And like I said, when you've got the right people at the table and your administrators are willing to say, like, how can I support you? And I'm going to hit it again. You have compliance, then you get good workload, you've got compliance. That's already one thing your administrators are going to be less worried about recruitment and retention. And you've got happier colleagues they're going to stay and they're not worried about inequitable treatment. They're
Mhm.
not worried about significant burnout. We're a unique field. And Janine said it very well. We are helpers. We want to fix all the things all the time.
Yeah.
It's hard, and they want to keep us happy and working and compliant.
So
So
there's the long term of the weighted caseloads and maybe doing a pilot and coming up with all the proposals. You can use AI for a lot of that, a lot of those
yes.
tools to kind of give you like, what's a proposal that I can send to my administrators or have a meeting about weighted caseload? And it'll give you all of that information. It's amazing. Do you take it verbatim? No, you could say this
No.
is a starting point.
Right. Always
Starting
edit
point.
and put
Good
it in. Yeah.
thoughts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the
Yes.
long term. Then the short term, you can look at flexible schedules. You can adhere to your contract hours. I know it's hard. I know. You can follow eligibility instead of saying, well, there's this little thing. They've been with me for 2 years. And I always say cute is not an eligibility
Mhm.
area.
Right.
Cute is not. And so really looking at, does this child need intensive speech pathology services in a school to have educational benefit?
Mhm.
To,
And to
to
reiterate
remove the
something,
barrier to their access to the curriculum. When you start using the words, am I removing the barrier for their access to curriculum? And everything has to be for for their academic career.
mhm,
Yep.
and
Now,
have
and I
those.
know we talked about that. We are gonna, I think, talking about school-based eligibility is a bigger conversation that
Yes.
I've already talked to these two, and we're gonna get them on to talk about exactly that, because I think that is just a huge conversation that I think
Yeah.
we need to have.
And
Yeah.
dismissal and graduation conversation, we call it graduation, but dismissal
Yes.
conversations at the initial. This
Yes.
is what dismissal looks like. We want them to love us. We can all cry when they're dismissed, when they graduate. That's okay. And the sooner we have those conversations, what does dismissal look like? The
Mhm.
better we all
Yes.
are. And we're not hanging on to these little teeny tiny
Yes.
things that we can call it when they're done. And that is a
Yes.
huge caseload help. Plus, it's a great relationship starter. One other motivator to dismissal, and we didn't talk about this in the course, but I use my graduates are my speech coaches. So as soon as they graduate, they are elevated to a special, their little picture is moved up to speech coach. And as I onboard a new student, they are matched with a speech coach that has been a recent speech graduate. They are allowed to come once a month just to check in, but they're buddies, and it motivates the process. It allows us to celebrate at their exit meeting that promotion to speech coach. So
I love
parents
that.
are in, kids
That
are in. Yeah,
is
it's lovely. And then
amazing.
all the time they're like, Miss Abbie, when is it my coaching day? Like, it's
And I
sweet.
think that is so beautiful because we have to start reframing, rethinking what
Yes.
you're doing in schools. Okay, we got to move away from the clinical model. We got to celebrate our kids when they move from an intensive service delivery model and being open to moving to do something different. Even small changes, folks, can really make an impact not only on your students, but on you and how you feel when you come home. When I went back to the schools, I'm like, Psh, I've only been gone 10 years. It'll be great. Let me tell you, I would come home and lay on my couch and not move for like 3 hours because my brain was on fire. So making small changes can really make a big impact. So being open to saying, okay, I'm willing to look at my caseload. I'm going to sit, and don't do it by yourself. Sit with a
Get your
buddy.
friends. Yeah.
Have
Make it a
that speech
party.
meet. Yeah, make it a
Around the
party.
table. There's cheese, stuff, whatever you want to have.
Snacks and water or what have you.
Sure.
But even taking the time during a speech meeting. I know some districts have speech meetings, and a lot of times it's being told what to do because that's how it works. But say, hey, we're going to have this opportunity for the last 40 minutes to sit and talk and look at our students on our lists and say, who might benefit from a different service delivery model? Who might do, and having 2 or 3 brains together, speech brains, because we're amazing, especially school-based SLPs, you begin to see there is an opportunity. I can do this. I feel more confident. Maybe I'm going to try this and start small with a small group and then move and start having those discussions even with your extensive needs students, that right now the services look like this. Every student, this is what the services I'm recommending now, and this is what it looks like now. Next year, it could look very different, and that's what we want. We want them to be with their peers. We want them to be in the LRE. We want all of these things. And so it's not a surprise then, like Abbie said, it's not a surprise when you're like, okay, we're changing, and they're like, what? What's happening? So I'm curious if any of you that are here in the live course are doing any type of flexible service delivery models currently. I'm
Let's see
curious.
if anyone's jumping in. Well, I just had a conversation with our speech lead about, it was during we have meetings on Tuesdays because we do the 3-1. I love the 3-1. About how to do a burst. So like when you're writing that initial
Yes.
evaluation, right? So when you do on the first line from like the begin, let's say you're bringing them in August 24th to then to the end of that semester, right? The service time might be, the minutes might be more, and you might say, because I'm going to be pulling them probably three times for sure, but it's going to give them more time. But then in that second semester, I'm dropping it down. So it forces you to actually have that conversation because you built it already into your meeting minutes.
Yes.
But you can also say, now, if the data doesn't support that, that's when we come back and change it. But if the data, right, but what I am projecting is that we're going to try it this way with this service delivery, and then actually talk about the different service deliveries during that meeting so that they've heard it one time.
Yes.
I'm sorry, not just one time. Like when
They hear it over and over again.
Right. So they're not hearing it when you're wanting to change. They've heard it every time. So they are anticipating.
Exactly.
So I think being transparent and talking about all of that all the time, ad nauseum, if you will, right? Really help. Yeah.
Looks like
I love Christina's got 3-to-1
Yes.
consult direct, shortened sessions for our TIC. I
Great.
think it's so important, and we've said it a number of times. Really look at what service delivery option. Direct is the default. It's it's nothing about scheduling is easy, but it's the default. Can you do this collaboratively? What does push-in look like? What does co-teaching look like? Because it is really fun doing WH question lessons in the behavior room. Literally my favorite. One of them's non-speaking. It's the best. what does that look like? And again, find your person. Do you have a really good special ed teacher, behavior, not resource, whatever, every state's going to call it something different, that you will work well together? Try it. They're almost always willing to consider moving in together and working towards that co-teaching. It's a blast.
I love that. And even think about your students that are maybe working towards generalizing, right? So your ARTIC students, your fluency students, even some of your executive function, social, that you're wanting to see them more in the classroom. Number one, you need to think about changing their service delivery, and then also change their goals and how you measure. So instead of 80% accuracy, we'll raise their hand and ask for, I did a whole course on that, using different data collection models. So think about that. So think about
I just had Rebecca Moore on. She wrote the article, More Than 80% Accuracy.
Yes. Oh my
I
gosh.
had her on. I just a couple weeks ago. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So think about, wait a minute, I've got these students. We're always thinking about our high support needs students. And the students have multiple issues, or they have severe phonological. I have a lot of students that I started leaving the speech room, because speech happens, folks, outside of the speech room
Everywhere.
all day long. And so we would work in the hallway, and we would go into the classroom, and then it became more of, I'm observing. I had a student who knew all of his accommodations, and he would say, today I'm going to ask for number 7. I'm like, awesome, do it.
Fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah.
And just to be in the classroom and say he did this so many times during the lesson, fabulous. So really being open to making a change. But change is hard, you guys, because routine is comfort. I know how to do a schedule with my sessions and how I've been doing it, and I'm used to that 4 weeks and just sweating by the end of the day. I don't know how to do this. I feel weird doing this. Maybe I'm going to feel like I'm doing less.
But it's not about doing less. It's about doing it better
And different.
And different. And I think as we're getting to the end, which I don't want to get to the end, but I told you all that I knew that it was going to end faster than I'm ready for. I'm not ready. But what I'm hearing is like the mindset shift really is, I'm hearing flexibility, because change is hard, but don't jump crazy. But be willing and open for change. We expect our students to be open and flexible. We need to start thinking flexible. And I think flexible schedule might be one of the first things, because if you think about an IEP, the I in IEP is individualized. And if everybody's 2 times 30, that is not individualized.
Well, and guess what?
Oh, go.
ASHA even says there should not be just one service delivery model used in school-based practice.
There you go.
That's what they say. And real quick, little plug for the course that Abbie and I did. It's called Caseload to Workload, Practical Strategies for School-Based SLPs. It's a 2-hour course. It's recorded here on SpeechTherapyPD. We have handouts for advocacy. We have explanations for flexible schedules and all the benefits and all the research. It's all there for you, so you don't have to go look it up. You can take it and say, okay, this is a starting point for me. I have the information, I have the data, I have what ASHA says about workload and caseload. I have all of the information from IDEA about flexible schedules and consult. Okay, I think I can go take the next step. So that's our little plug for our course.
Do you mind putting your email in the chat for everyone? Just make sure that before you go, that it might just say host and panelists. Change it to everyone. Yeah. But so I just want to say that this has been such an amazing conversation. I love this when we're talking about caseloads, just numbers. It just does not capture the complexity of what we are really doing every single day. I loved today how you reframed that workload really is more accurate. And we are about accuracy, are we not? Are we not? Right? So let's be more sustainable and keep loving our jobs, right? If we align with what students need, we will be happier too, because that's why we're even in this.
Exactly.
Right? All right. Okay, everyone listening, I want to leave you with a question. What part of your workload is currently invisible? They were talking about the invisible work. I want you to think about that and start really thinking. Don't hide your light under a bushel. Everyone needs to don't start really thinking about things that you're doing that nobody knows. You really need to. everyone should have credit for everything they're doing, and start thinking about what's a small shift that you can do to better align your time and really give a better impact and outcome, right? All right, Janine and Abbie, I know this is not the end for us and Speech
Yeah,
Therapy
see us
PD
again.
and School of Speech. I know I'm going to get you back on School of Speech for sure, but I really want to thank you so much for your time tonight, and really sharing your expertise. And y'all go and find their course as well. It's amazing. Now, we had a lot of listeners live, and a lot of you guys are live because you need those live CEUs. So please, 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 before the end of today, go to your Speech Therapy PD account. You're going there anyway because you want to go check out their course. Make sure that you fill out all those modules. All right, y'all. I cannot believe that it's time for us to go. So until next time, I'll see you on the next